Hello, beloveds. Thank you. Thank you for showing up. Appreciate you. I appreciate you. I want to make sure you know that. We're going live every morning, actually, except Shabbat. Yeah. And we call this 100 days. Yeah. We call this 100 days. We started 100 days before significance, the election. My sacred partner, myself, we were nervous. So we started that Sunday, that Sunday that the space opened up a little bit for us, like the hey, the Hebrew letter, that opening on top that makes all the difference. Squeeze through that opening into hope. The difference between the hey and the chet. If you know, you know. My sacred partner is recovering, so I'm sure she'll be with us next week in our next series. Last night we did I don't know what you call it, a reading, a singing for my new book at a bakery. And it was fantastic. It was spectacular. Who would have thought? At a bakery. And we'll do more because it's a place that is a good story. Isn't that what we're looking for? Good stories. Isn't that what we got last Sunday when we started this? We got a good story. I'm feeling a good story. A good story, yeah. In search of the good story. We're working out of Mesilat Yesharim, Moshe Chaim Lutzato, halfway of the straight ahead, the just people, the straight ahead people. It starts with truth, to be able to discern truth. Oh my God, the truth. The truth is where it begins. And so elusive, this notion of truth in our time. Oh my goodness. But that's where we begin. Oh man. This is a work by the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato. Yeah. So he writes in the introduction that he wants to remind you what you already know. It's part of what our sequence of learning that we're opening up here. This learning interiority, the inside story. To discern the truth, it begins with that. If we don't have that, we're in big trouble. And I was feeling that slipping away from us. It's only the impetus for doing this. So where's the truth? The truth is so elusive and slippery. Now, and I can attribute that to one force in our culture. Yeah, for sure. So we begin with the truth, and it's in our one of the songs that we took from the Psalms too, that we've been doing since our last project. The Psalms probably derived from Psalm 105 and 110. Oh, do find your gratitude. Kiru, say it out loud. Shiru, sing it, swing it. Sihu, talk about it. Heat hallelujah, lift up some praise. Dear Shu, turn it over, think it through. Zichru, remember what you know. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. You might find your way to hallelujah. Ki zachar. Remember, et devar could show that holy word. Remember. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Yeah, that came out of our Psalms project. Remember what you know. We're working from Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, the Ramchal, 18th century. Very interesting thinker, born near Venice. Spent some time in Amsterdam where he had to flee because he became enchanted by Kabbalistic pursuits. And it was too close to the false messiahs, you know. He ended up in Akko, settled in Akko, died soon thereafter. Plague, his whole family. It's a sad story, but he left us some. He was a Ilui. He was smart, really smart, and he was looking for the foundations of piousness, and how to train the interior to grow in such a way that's deliberate. So we start with learning, because that's what we're doing. So that's the metrics. We start with learning. And the first stage is 10 steps that he has in here. And the first one is be attentive. Be attentive. Pay attention. Surprise yourself. I get it. You know, one of the words that I use often, I notice is, oh, interesting. Why is that word in my vocabulary so much? We did the show last night in a bakery. I said, wow, it's really interesting. It's interesting because it defied my expectations. My expectations were showing. I didn't expect to work so well in a bakery. But the bakery is such a good project. Teach a person to fish. Putting ex-offenders to work in a bakery. What an idea. I learned it from working with this person when I was in the prison system. But yeah, I was surprised. It worked so well. I was surprised because my expectations were showing. Yeah, it was interesting. I got out of the way and let the world teach me its wisdom. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, indeed. So, what are we looking for? We're looking to create piousness within us. This piece is from my book called New World, Old World. It's from the Babylonian Talmud, Sanhedrin 97b, Sukkot 45b. Abaya, one of the great Talmudic rabbis, said there are not less than 36 righteous persons in the world who receive the Shekhinah, the inner presence, the quiet presence. Not less. Wait a minute. So we're waiting for them, We're waiting for this legendary 36. We call them the 36ers, Lamed Vovniks. And what's interesting. What follows Abaya's teaching in the Babylonian Talmud is a discussion between two Rashi Yeshiva, two heads of the academies in Babylonia, Rav and Shmuel, as to imply, what if there isn't enough righteousness in the world to sustain what then? That's the implication. And sometimes I feel like I'm living inside these conversations, like I went for a swim in the Talmud, in the sea of the Talmud, and I bumped into someone I know. Oh my God. One of them said, well, what if there not enough righteousness in the world? Well, then everything depends on a complete transformation and good deeds, tshuva, and good transformation, good deeds. Wait a second. That's heavy. That's a lot. But Shmuel, his colleague, said, oh, it's just enough for mourners to stand in mourning. Oh my God. This sounds so contemporary. Be in your grief. Stand in your grief. Stand in your mourning. Stand in your sadness. By Rav, everybody will have to transform, but by Shmuel, it's enough to stand in your suffering, to be with it. That sounds like I read it out of a how-to book now. 3rd century CE. Boy, and Abaya's teaching, every generation requires these 36 righteous persons who receive God's presence, quiet, inner. It's a minimum, and they authenticate the generation. But between Abaya and Rav and Shmuel, the heads of the yeshiva, is an unexpressed question. What if there is not enough righteousness in the world? What then? What if there came a generation in which there was not enough, a place or a generation that could happen, like Sodom, like the generation of Noah, like Auschwitz? Not enough righteousness. What about now? Is there enough righteousness to make the aspirational repairs? Ooh, waiting, waiting for the world to demonstrate its righteousness, for people of decency to rise up and isolate and suffocate forces of destabilization and cruelty and absence of truth-telling. All right. For now, I'm in that space. I'm standing in my grief. When I'm done weeping, I'll get up and on with it. Yeah, an act of waiting and a waiting for action. An act of waiting and a waiting for action. And last Sunday, I felt an opening. That's when we started this. I won't say that's interesting because I'm feeling these integrative activities are not so surprising. Thanks for showing up. Shabbat Shalom. We're bringing up Sephardi tunes into the synagogue tonight, and we don't go online on Shabbat, but we'll be back on Sunday morning. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.